Okay. Why don't we go ahead and start? We got a lot to cover today and discuss here, so let me jump ahead. Ken, any comments before we start?
I guess I'll just start with a quick apology for being a bit absent the last few weeks. It's been a quick start to the new year. Looking forward to getting back to work with the team here, and I'll let you get into the meat of the day.
Okay.
Tom, thank you.
Very good. Okay, so today I have the agenda. I sent out a pretty healthy slide deck for those of you that are in the car or just want to get it later. We are recording. I'll send the link out, as I always do, to the meetings. You can catch up again. So today we'll go over our updates. We have a discussion on our 2020 work plan, specifically some details on our SISE rollout business model. We now have the SISE to out of beta. Phase 1, we're now in basically 2.0 of the SISE, so it's ready to go, which I'm very happy. We've been working on this for 2+ years. Then we'll talk about the agenda, possible agenda items for the 2020 June Summit. And then I put in there our next discussions, kind of the status of our use cases we'll get to in a minute. So why don't we jump into our agendas? First up is our sustainment effort. We have as we said last week, we have an agreement we've signed with DHS through Idaho National Labs, and that's going to fund some critical connections to state and private sector for data sharing. We're going to start connecting the SISE to North Carolina, and that'll be a direct connect right into their WebEOC system. So we will be able to get ground truth information on whatever use cases the groups decide. We'll be able to get that instantaneously posted. When they post it in North Carolina to WebEOC, it'll post into the SISE on a dashboard of sort. The objective there is to roll that out to Pennsylvania, then to Maryland, Florida, Virginia over time. But the second piece for that is our sustainment plan was kind of getting our SISE subscription model launched, which we'll talk about today. We've been through different versions of that, tested different price points, offer points, and we'll talk about that for a minute today. And then lastly, we're standing up the All Hazards Consortium has approved the establishment of an Applied Operational Research Institute. This will work with federal and private sector foundations, investors, to really promote the work of the SISE for integrated problem solving with state and government, but also work on training, publishing new, leading edge concepts for disaster management, cyber physical security. The board has a big vision for that. So what I wanted to do was to see and get a refresh of how, of you folks on the call, as we roll this out in 2020, how many of you all would like to be on the sustainment committee? If you would just shout your name out, we're going to refresh that group. And I'd like to have a meeting with them at least once a month, because this is going to get pretty busy.
Tom, this is Dave Jones. I'd like to be on it.
Okay, very good. We're talking about folks.
Hey, Tom,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's Fred Ferrer. I just joined late.
Hi, Fred. Good morning.
Morning. I didn't know what it was you were talking about.
Yeah, we're kind of realigning some of our committees, and I wanted to provide an update and see who wanted to be part of that sustainment committee. So, okay, we're good.
Hey, Tom. Chris McIntosh signed me up.
Hey, Chris. Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Greg. DHS got a vested interest in that too. So.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, I'll partake too.
All right.
Sustainment from the standpoint of how it ties into resilience, or
this is really sustainment of the SISE framework, right? Which is really the big picture, right? So yeah, that'll be.
Tom, Jim Nowak, you can throw me on there.
Okay, very good. Okay, anyone else? Okay, very good.
You can add me too, Tom.
Who's that? Dave?
Dave Adablumis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be a status call with input, but we just wanted to make sure we refresh this group every year. Some of the folks that were on it aren't involved anymore, so good. Okay, Karen, let me move next to our ORL committee. Any updates? By the way, the original objective of that group was to create draft ORL models for operators and research, which we've done. We probably need to set some new objectives for this group, Karen, at some point. But anyway, I just wanted to get an update from you on the ORL process.
Yeah, I think I'm going to turn it over to Dave and ask him to give his updates.
Okay.
I know he's been talking with various people about new data.
Thanks, Karen. This is Dave. I'm in the car, so apologies if I drop out a little bit. I was sorry I missed a call last week, Tom. I was up in Boston at the American Meteorological Society annual meeting. It's their 100th anniversary. But I did have a chance to speak with NASA, the Applied Sciences Division, particularly the disasters program manager there, and he indicated interest in talking further to see how we might be able to help them with data and applications and things like that, which is a very positive sign. I've been kind of trying to work on him for about 3 years now to get NASA to realize that we have a framework in place that could be a nice outlet for NASA research data and applying that research data into operational environments. He was pretty interested in the ORL model as well, interested to see how research data might fit into that, and that's kind of our next phase. So if you're looking for a next phase for the ORL committee, it might be, there'll be some other things I'm sure, but the process of transitioning research data into operations. So it would be great to have a pathway for data sets that show up in any research environment to get them into our dashboards, to share them across the sectors and get feedback from those sectors on the value of that data in operations. And we want to be very, very careful about how we put that data into the mix, because many times the data is not ready for prime time. And I think we want to use the institute that's standing up to beta that data to get it ready for operations.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good way to talk about it. So we've seen good progress. We're getting NASA. I'm trying to line up a date to come meet with them. There's no date yet. Hopefully it'll happen in the next few weeks, and then I'll just keep you updated on that progress.
Okay. Very good. Any questions for Dave? Just one point for the private sector. We had discussions with NASA. They have no feedback loop to inform their future research. So if Dave can make the connection from the SISE to the ORL, the feedback from the utilities, the telecom, the fuel folks, the food folks will actually inform their new research investments on data sets. So this is a great opportunity to help the feds redirect or better direct their research dollars to bring data to the table that you all can use, or improve current data that you can use within your decision trees. For example, we talked about aerial photographs, right? Aerial photography. So we want. This is going to be a really important thing that we're undertaking here. So I just wanted to let you guys know the operational value of that. It's going to be really big. Okay, so Dave, thank you very much.
Hey,
Yeah.
Thanks. I just wanted to add one quick thing too, is that it's the private sector and also other federal agencies. So DHS and Greg, what's happening there within CISA and connecting across the federal family is also of high interest to NASA and NOAA and those guys, because they have a pretty narrow group of people that they're servicing right now,
and they've been trying for a long time to expand the user base for other federal data sets. And I also had a meeting down there in Boston, or up there in Boston, with the chief data officer for the Department of Commerce. And the federal data strategy was just released from the Office of the President, and some of the stuff we're doing fits right into the federal data strategy. So we're really looking good for how this is evolving, and we can certainly move along that line as we proceed. But just to reiterate, for both federal agencies and the private sector that can provide feedback, which is going to be very valuable.
Very good.
Hey, Dave, this is Greg. We're all in. Just let me know when you want me to pull in the right people. I'm on the data task force within CISA and all the CISA gateway efforts moving forward. So we're very interested in piloting something to that extent. And you just tell me when we need to pull in the right people, and I'll do that.
Sounds great, Greg. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dave. Next up is our State Liaison Committee. I don't think Persia was able to be on with us today. Kent, you'll be interested in this. If you remember last November, we had our meeting of the SISE Strategic Advisory Committee. We talked about liaison training. And what we would like to do in 2020 is to create some type of training initiative that would allow any company, electric, comms, whatever, that has liaisons that need to work with states. We'd like to create, I think this was your idea, Kent, a joint liaison training program, maybe put together by a few of the state liaisons on our SISE committee, plus some of you folks, and look at, what are the key questions that we need to train each other on, public and private, so that during disasters we have better understanding and coordination and directories of who to get hold of. And Persia would like to discuss that, Kent, based on that idea. I made a note, and I wanted to circle back with you to see if that's of interest to you and the other folks, the operators on the group.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. The business continuity professionals do very good at that, but because of the one-to-many relationships, we oftentimes have other people fill those roles and providing them training on how to set aside their day, the hat they wear every day, and put on that liaison hat is very important. We trained several hundred people with those skills last year, but I think it'd be an even better model to do that collaboratively with some of the states. So absolutely, I'd love to help with that one.
Yeah, so that shouldn't be a big lift, but I think it'd be an important one. I'm not sure the utilities have the same need as telecom. The utilities have a pretty direct connect to their states, but I guess we'll find out as we launch that. The idea is to get some common principles in place across multiple sectors and states, because it makes it easier for the states. So anyway, we'll explore that this year with that group. So the other thing is that group's going to be. Yeah, go ahead.
Tom, this is Jeff. Also speaking from that utility perspective, but in addition, knowing that some states, every state is different, it may not necessarily just be a liaison to the state. Some areas are home rule, therefore you may be, dealing directly with, county or municipality, township. So it would be good in some instances to get representation from those perspectives as well, because many utilities are dealing very, very deep in the weeds. They're not necessarily dealing directly with the state.
Yeah, Jeff, great point. That's a great point. Yeah, I can think of 3 in the Northeast right now.
I reside in one. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the big idea, if we can get operations people at the state level and in the private sector to agree on a common curriculum for that, I just got to believe it would be very, very helpful. And especially when you have turnover that training needs to be available so people get up to speed, at least on the philosophy, which I think Jeff, you just articulated. That's part of the philosophy here. So, excellent. Okay, good. Next up is our GIS committee. Chris, I'll turn it over to you for an update on. I know there's quite a bit going on with that group as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. We're continuing to work on ORL, getting the processes in place and starting to get data sets vetted now that we have the ORL vetting tool. We are also working on information sharing agreements. Information sharing, as you guys all know, is probably less technical than it is procedural. So we have an information sharing agreement that I'm looking at right now that myself and Dale from Dominion are helping to provide comments on and get that governance component of the information sharing in place and operationalized. And then thirdly, we are working on a proof of concept for the SISE data sharing portal. I showed Tom it last night, kind of first person who's gotten a peek at it. And this is the technical part of what Tom mentioned earlier in the call, being able to bring in states' WebEOC data and allow you to share your data that other people can then use, whether in applications that are inside of the SISE or pull it down into your own situational awareness system. It's a big step forward. Very excited to have that. It's on All Hazards Consortium infrastructure. It's using a technology called GeoHub, which is designed specifically for this purpose. So the pieces are starting to come together on the SISE and operationalizing SISE in 2020. I'm very excited about that.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Chris? Yeah, we'll get into this a little on our next call at 10 o'clock. A lot going on with that GIS committee. Okay, next up is our Endeavor work group, which right now is in Pennsylvania. Pat Scholl, any update from Endeavor?
Nothing from me, Tom, but if he could share that some folks are looking at doing something similar to the group, I would appreciate it.
Sure. So what we'll be discussing today is the SISE business model, and we want to use that business model at a state level as well. So the idea is to have companies that want to get involved and improve their operations join at the state level. So Pat, myself, Carmela, a few others that are part of the Endeavor are going to put together basically a program that will allow companies to join their state business EOC, BEOC program at no cost, and then as an option, they'll be able to subscribe to the SISE and get access to more information from the regional level, DHS, other sectors as well, and that revenue will fund the sustainment of those state-run working groups, which I can tell you, in my opinion, that is the secret sauce, is without connection to those state EOCs regularly, every day, not just during disasters, nothing would happen. I can tell you, in my 16 years, nothing works. It really needs to be bottom up, and they need help. They don't have the staff, they don't have the time and resource and people. Everybody's doing 5 jobs. So ideally, we want the SISE to become a support mechanism for the private sector, and by supporting this. So Pat and Carmel and I are going to go over the model here once we have it done. We're supposed to have it done today, but it's going to be pushed into the weekend probably. And then we'll launch that. I'll show you the timeline on that. Very excited about that because that will provide the sustainment and provide value to these companies that they probably won't get anywhere else to improve their decision making. Okay, I'm going to jump past the use case committee. I'm just looking at time. I want to stay on track here. So next up on the 1 second here. Next up on the agenda is a SISE update. We're moving the SISE environment, at least the look and feel of the portal, to the final platform. So it will require 2-factor authentication, registration. So when someone signs up for this, They'll have to complete an application that'll include name, address, phone, email, agreement to the terms and conditions as a SISE user, and a cell phone. And every time they log in, they're going to get a two-factor authentication. That's level 1 security based on the SISE user agreement. So I just wanted to provide a quick update on where we are at the moment. Currently, we are, when you log into the SISE, we're updating the page now. It should be done this weekend. I just wanted to pull it up on the screen for those of you who can see it. And give you the look feel. We really wanted this page to be really sharp looking. So it's simple. You can see there's a lot of white space, and from here you'll launch into every area within the SISE: the work groups, operational alerts, chat, the media station, the training. Everything will launch once you're logged in from here. So I wanted to. We'll do a formal demonstration on it, but we basically are working on getting the whole central page look and feel together based on your all's recommendation. New navigation is in place. On the left side, there'll be a simple navigation bar for a number of different things. We are going to add secure chat, so we didn't think we would be able to do that, but we are going to have that, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about how we can leverage that. So the second piece was within the App Store, we are continuing to upgrade the navigation and the search capability. There's too many products in there for a new person to understand every product and what it is. So we will organize them by keyword, or we'll organize them by a number of different categories you all have told us about. So if I go into it now, which I'm doing on my screen, hopefully you guys can see this, we've organized them by ORL ranking. We've organized them by disaster response. So under that category, the decision dashboards, declarations and waivers, fuel availability, government, power outage, so forth, disaster solutions. So the idea is to allow a user to search in a number of different ways to find what they need quickly. And then once they get to a page, this is my favorite capability, is there'll be an add to cart feature. Not a cart, like a favorites list, right? So chances are you're going to have 3 or 4 favorites you go to every time. It'll allow you to tag any product in there. You can tag it, put on your favorites list, and then it'll just make navigation simpler. So any questions on the updates? This is all based on your recommendations over the last 6 months. Any questions on the new interface? Okay. Let me go now to the business model. So this is kind of a snapshot. Let me put it up on the full screen here. This is a business snapshot that we have tested several times. So we've decided that on the subscription model standpoint, we had requirements for, some people just wanted month to month. Not that that was interesting. Some people were interested in 6 months. Some people were interested in year-round. 6 months might be the hurricane season or the winter storm season or whatever. So we tested a number of price points. So month to month will be $300 a month for those that sign up for it. You guys being on the working group are going to get grandfathered in. So this is for folks that are new that come to us through either social media outreach or events or so forth. So this is kind of our go-to-market launch pricing. So month to month we set at about $300 a month. If they want to do 6 months, it's about 200 and some, whatever, 100 and I forget. It's $1,000 a year, and then 12 months will be $1,200 a year. That is a flat fee, so that as new apps, data sets, and things are developed, they are added at no additional cost. As we get premium products, that'll of course be an opt-in at a higher price. But the whole idea was to create a simple, flat fee that would allow users to get access, fund the help desk, fund the people that need to make it work, fund initiatives and so forth. But they will get access to everything the SISE has, from the App Store and all the products and services that are in there, the community, the work group access, both live and recorded, our events and partners. We have a number of services we do during Blue Sky Day, planning, updates and so forth. Then we have Dark Sky Day planning we've been doing with the Fleet Work Group for years, which is helping support mutual assistance movement, coordination with states, disaster response notifications, cross-sector reports. We do a lot of that. Any third-party tools and things we have, new research and development we get added in there, and training. We'll have a training library that will train people on the SISE, on the AHC, on processes, on state policies in Pennsylvania. We'll have a number of things. All the webinars will be recorded. So that's our 2020 business model approach from the subscription standpoint. That's one of the business models that we'll be looking at. But this has taken a lot of energy and time, packaging and testing and so forth. Any questions on this business model approach? Let me just go down the horn here because I want to get folks' feedback. So I'll start. Dave Vanderbloemen, any comments or questions?
No, it makes sense to me, Tom. I'm curious on how you came up with all the prices stuff, but I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Jeff Plackus?
No, Tom, I think that's a good plan going forward. I think it's a good plan. I think the pricing's pretty much in line with what you'd expect.
Yeah. And just as another, you got me thinking, Jeff, about something else. We are working really hard on the financial justification, and we got some really interesting case studies where companies that use the SISE one product one time, will more than pay for the subscription 3-4 times over. It's pretty amazing when you look at the commercial side of this. Cost justification is really
I think as part of the publicity for this, maybe there should also be include like a brief business case for those private sector entities that are on the fence. Just something small, maybe exactly what you just said. Here's how you can justify this expenditure. It's not a lot, but still they're going to probably want something like that.
Yeah.
It would be good to be able to help put it together.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, we actually have a person that does this for a living that's helping us, and yeah, the idea is to be at a minimum 10 times the cost is what the value should be. So if we're charging $1,200 a year, it ought to save somebody at least $12,000 the first time they use it. Right. That's what we're looking at, is this tenfold, because then it makes the decision much easier. So we're putting a lot of energy into that. So that was the idea. Okay, thank you, Jeff. John Morris, any comments? John Morris, any comments? Input?
There's a ton of them. The partner that you're working with, do they have the store access, and are they going to be doing all of the back end manipulation of holding cards and that kind of stuff?
No, not. I'm sorry. Make sure I understand your question. Are you talking about the financial justification, or are you talking about the technology?
The technology.
Yeah. We have a number of partners. Right now, we're not on the back end. We have 3 levels of security, John, if I understand the question right. The first one is without any PIV or soft credential. It's just it's getting 6 or 8 pieces of information on you with a 2-factor, right? The other right now the credential we're going to use is someone's credit card, because if they join, the financial transaction will validate for us they're U.S., they're real. We validate a lot. Yeah. We validate a lot through that transaction. So on the higher level use cases, like level 2, level 3, we'll actually introduce a higher level agreement. We'll have a PIV card type, and we'll have a different partner that'll help us do that. We wanted to do it this way because we could not scale quickly with states if we had a super credential, right? You just can't. States can't afford it. It's too, The last storm we had 700 new people that wanted to get on our distribution list, which eventually will mean in the SISE. So how do you do that in a day? You can't. Yeah. So that was the.
Do you think more people are going to go for the annual subscription than monthly?
Well, we'll have.
If I was coming in, I would think obviously I want to go. It's a lot cheaper to go on an annual subscription.
every sector is a little different. We're going to do this with the state. We'll do this with states for free. We need the states involved, so we're not going to charge them so they can come on quickly. I think it varies by sector and person and so forth. And again, 2020 will validate this model, and then we will adjust accordingly. So, as you know, probably better than I do, is it's always, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Sure, yeah. A lot of iteration from here on out.
Yeah.
I really like the model. I really think that it could really work. Of course, obviously, as you said, there's a lot of work from here on out. But I like the breakdown and I like the value proposition.
Yeah, and this is an individual model. We will have a corporate model as well, which will just kind of be a package, with more licenses and so forth. But we wanted to start with something simple.
Sure.
We wanted to start with something simple and address the casual user, the more intermediate, and the advanced user. And we want it to be like a no-brainer financially, based on the value they get.
Yeah, sure.
Based on the value they get when they use it, right? So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Karen Moe, comments or input?
Sure.
Excuse me?
Comments or input on the business model? Any?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Good, sorry.
Okay. Alan Bradshaw, comments or input?
Tom, I tell you, it's really maturing well, and I think the value proposition is going to speak for itself. So, looking forward to
Great.
seeing what you send out.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Did I miss any? Oh, Ken, any comments or input? You've seen this through many iterations. I've
We've talked through it a couple times for sure. No, I think it's coming together nicely, and I think there's, it's going to make sure that the people see the value and leverage the tool. It's easy for individuals to sign up for things that are free and never go back, but having a little bit of a financial commitment to get the access will, I think, help underscore the value and really get users to use it more effectively and in more depth. So good stuff.
Yeah, and did I miss anyone for comment?
Hey, Tom, this is Greg.
Sorry, Greg.
I do like the fact that it's under the government P-card purchase limit of $3,500. But on another note, when the SISE kind of comes up with that new capability or technology, and I'll throw out some of the things we've discussed, is alerts notifications that we can subscribe to that are 24/7, that are scraping data from social media, scraping data from news feeds, and feed that direct into any operations center. That's of great value, and I know we as a DHS pay third-party providers for that information, whether it comes in a report or alert publication, quite a bit of money. So that would be something that you may want to look at to maybe charge more for, or if you get enough folks on board, then to spread costs across the board. So look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. That's a good example of the group looking at, very simple, what's the cost to run it and support it? And if we can afford to bundle it in as free subscription, so if we do it, or if we need to do it as a premium, we can do that as well. We are testing what you just said. We're actually testing a small version of that with Endeavor. So in Pennsylvania, when Molly or the EOC sends out an email, we're going to have a robot that will capture, scrape, and put it all onto one website for all the Endeavor folks. We're going to then bring it up to the SISE level as well. But we're trying to reduce, as you all said, reduce email. Give us one place where the information can be vetted, validated, and stored. And that's the direction we're moving in. So I'm excited to see this roll out. But once we get this in place, now we can move out. We've been really tweaking this for years. I mean, really, it's been a long effort. So appreciate everybody's input and feedback on that. Let me jump next to our timeline for launch for this. So if you look at, for those of you that are able to look at the screen, we're tweaking now in January. We'll have a soft launch for all you all. So you'll get an email from me. And all of your previous accounts are going to be deleted and we'll start fresh with the new platform. And you'll go in and create an account. You won't be charged anything for that, and we'll do a couple of little mini exercises and get feedback. And then we want to do a phase 2 launch in February. Phase 1 launch will be about 50 users. Phase 2 will be about, we'll invite a couple of hundred. And then March we'll do a full launch to 15,000. We'll batten down the hatches. We will also look to do the Endeavor launch, probably February, March. Pat, after you and I speak, we can get a better handle on that. So the state association members and association members are going to also have another offer that will entice them to join the state liaison group. So, okay. And then lastly, our 2020 initiatives. I won't go into all of them, but we'll be looking at implementing SISEnet, which is basically connecting a network of states into the SISE to get real-time data from the states right into the SISE. Chris touched on the SISE Esri Hub, how we can get more leverage out of our Esri license that we have. We're going to look at SISE as a service, right? Some people that don't have internal capability and they want to bring some of this in-house. We will look at how to do that through our partners with GeoCollaborate and Esri. And then we're going to be working with DHS on this whole cross-sector impacts analytics with a tool that DHS has developed that gives decision makers visual indication of cross-sector impacts. So if there's a flood here, how does that impact comms? How does that impact fuel? How does that impact electric? And then what's coming behind that? How does it impact finance and other things? So fantastic visual capability for planning, and we'll get access to that. So any questions? Okay. Want to focus a few minutes on the annual meeting coming up. We'll take this week and next week to get through it. I don't want to go through all the details, but we're working on a hold the date. We have four graphics that we are going to come up with a name and the tagline and get this out. This will be our graphic for the year. I sent it out in the packets. If you have a favorite, let me know. But we want this to be a summary of the fleet response, the SISE, our GIS committees, our use case committee. We want this to be an annual gathering of our committees with our partners at DHS, FEMA, DOE, DOT, our trade associations, Edison Electric and Petroleum Marketers and Food. We want to come together and do training and updates and education on this as we go, all under the banner of resilience. So that we don't know what the final name is going to be called, but anyway, wanted to just look at the agenda real quick in our remaining time. I won't go through all the slides here. Let me pull up the agenda here. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna organize this, and we'll need some help from our work group members to facilitate or present so forth. So we're gonna have we'll have 5 topic areas. One will be just updates on what's going on within the All Hazards Consortium, what's going on with the fleet work group, what's going on with the SISE and the GIS component, and then training. Additionally, we are going to have our state and federal partners are going to have opportunities to bring us up to date. We're going to invite the director of CISA, for example, to speak on Monday, which is the big day here. CISA is a big partner of ours. Many of our board members know Chris Krebs, its director, and his mission statement really sparked a lot of the work within the SISE community, and so it'd be great to have Chris there. We'll get a couple of other updates from state and federal, and then we're going to do a lot of breakout sessions. We have 3 rooms we can utilize. What I tried to do was take last week's input and put it into these categories. So I wanted to just kind of walk down the list so that we can discuss them if we have any. Okay, here we go. So from the SISE working group, one of the areas I wanted to pose to the group was, we stood up a lot of use cases. Some are active and growing and moving, and some are kind of on hold, awaiting other data or other things like that. What I wanted to pose to the group was, what would be the best way to cover 6 or 8 use cases? What kind of format would work best? On a round table, separate sessions? I wanted to get your thoughts about how we might organize a session like that. I'll start. Just go down the list if you have any thoughts. Kent, I'll start at the top. Work down. Kent.
Yeah. I guess just a quick thought. I might try to spread it out over the course of the full meeting. Try and do 4, 5, 6 use cases in one shot. People are going to get a little fatigued on the discussions.
Okay. Good input. We may have to slim that down. We may not be able to get to all of them, but we certainly have some good ones that we can zero in on. Okay. Dave Vanderbloemen, any comments from your perspective?
Tom, I think the roundtable typically generates more discussion, and I'm not sure if everybody that's going to be attending is going to be interested in all 6 of the use cases. So maybe if you could take a look and see what attendees would be interested in what, maybe you could pair a couple of them together, and those that are interested can attend the ones that they want to and add more value for them.
Okay, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Alan, any comments or input?
Yeah, along the same lines as Dave said, Tom, sometimes maybe you have 6 use cases and maybe you have a rotation where people can select 3 or 4 of the ones that they're most interested in, and they just kind of rotate into separate sessions.
Okay.
Over the course of a day.
Okay, very good. Chris McIntosh, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. The only thing I would add is there's a lot of initiatives on here that are moving pretty quickly. So I know we have training on here at the bottom, but I think part of people staying bought into the SISE work is that they continue to have a really good understanding of every element that's happening technology-wise and other. So having a little bit more in small bites, bringing them along where we are and where we're going over 2020, sprinkled throughout the entire session, I think is going to be really important.
Okay. All right, very good. Jeff Placas?
Hey Tom, yeah, nothing really additional to add. I like the point about taking some of the use cases and doubling them up, especially if we have additional breakout rooms to be able to go into. I think the flow of this, you need to flow it so that it's good. Should you be talking about the SISE and the history of it before you get into the use cases? I mean, you just have to think about what's the mission, what's the purpose of why we're having this. Put that right up front. If it's just to pass along information, great. If it's for some recruitment, how to join, but not only how to join, why to join. And then say, okay, well, this is why you want to join.
Right.
What are the benefits? So, just a thought.
Okay, good. No, that's great. So I'll make a note here. Yeah, we have Laura Johnson is going to work with us on this. She's done this forever for us, and she's really good. So I appreciate the input there. Thank you. Did I miss anyone else? Would like to comment?
Hey Tom,
Go ahead, Dave.
this is Dave.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Sorry. Yeah, I think that the breakout sessions can work out really well if they're moderated. If they can submerge everybody in a particular use case, so everyone's on the same page of thinking of that use case, then I think it's going to be important to actually show data sets, what kind of data sets are available, to help that use case, and then try to get input from everybody on what additional pieces of information might they want to help them make better decisions. And that'll help us go and dig and data mine for other data sets that could be very valuable to help that use case.
Just to add to that, this is Greg. Exactly what kind of Dave said is understanding the process of really kind of what are we after? Are we looking for like a 50-50 exchange or just to pass on information? I think these folks kind of need to understand the use case approach and some of the results we've developed on some of maybe an initial example, and then walking through on how we're leveraging the SISE, how we're looking for, again, those additional data sets to support, whether it's situational awareness or the analytics part of this and how it's implemented operationally. I think those are all good points that we might want to consider.
Thank you, Greg. Well, the reason I zeroed in on the use cases is that is really the center point of this entire meeting, right? It's problem solving, and that use cases are a problem solving thing. The rest of the stuff is really training and briefing and education, but the use case piece, that's why I focused on, is going to be central. So that this input is really, really valuable. We're going to talk about it again next week in depth, but I really wanted to put some energy into the use case process, exactly what you all said, and really the value and the impact. How did this help us? We have some great ones that the Fleet Working Group have been working on for years, right? There's some new ones that have come up, and this might be a good opportunity to explain it. Anyone else have an input?
Hey, Tom, Pat Shaw.
Okay, Pat, hi there.
Question, how much information will the attendees have prior to the meeting?
Great question. So we're working on a plan for that. And the idea was, Pat, that we would try to create, through an email campaign, a link to a web page that would provide a download PDF and a video, maybe 4 of them as read-aheads, right? One on our use case process, one on our use case process, and a download, right, that they can look at. The next one might be the people. The next one might be the partners. But the pre-education prior to the meeting, you do great if you get 30% of the people that actually do it. Video seems to be the most common. If it's short and brief to the point, then they can download the document. That's our current strategy. Wide open for input. If anybody, Pat, if you have suggestions, or we might even do some live webinars. We had one person suggest maybe you could do a run-up, like a live webinar with some of the private sector state folks. So any thoughts you have?
I just was thinking that, a lot of people, brainstorming takes up a lot of time, but if you can do some brainstorming prior to, where people can add maybe things of concerns or questions or input that they can share themselves, by the time they get to the meeting, some of that can be filtered in. They got it out of their system, so to speak, and they can focus in on the process, and which will maybe make your time more valuable.
Right. This is a great question, Pat. One of the suggestions was make everybody register with the SISE ahead of time before they attend. It's part of their registration, right? And when you do that, there's questions in there that says, what is your number one issue you're wrestling with right now? Okay, and we've captured over 1,000 entries like that already, right? But if we had a pre-registration, we could do a lot of that, and actually people could tell us, here's what I'm looking for. I think it would help us. That's a great suggestion, Pat. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so next week, why don't we drill into this a little further? I'll have a little spreadsheet with Laura. And the reason I want to get this knocked out is because I know, Kent, you're planning to come. I know a number of you are planning to come. I would like to engage all of you that are willing to facilitate, speak, whatever. I want this really to be a working group summary and really showcase the work of our work groups and, subject matter experts and so forth. So next week we'll get into this in detail. But I know, Kent, I sent you a text. Thank you. That's great news. And I'll be reaching out to all of you here over the weekend just to confirm everybody's planning to be able to attend, and if you'd like to participate in some way, we'd love to. We need as many hands helping. We need as many hands helping as we can get. Let's just say that. So. Okay, well that's it on my end for this call. Anybody got anything else? Okay, Kent, I'll give you the last word, and then we'll wait for our 10 o'clock call.
Sorry, Tom, had to get off mute. Great call today, great discussion. A lot of exciting stuff for 2020, so looking forward to it. Tom?
Okay, great. Thank you, Kent. Folks, this will conclude our 9 o'clock call. If you're going to stay on for the 10, I'll leave the bridge up and the webinar up as well. So we'll reconvene at 10 o'clock, okay? Thank you. If you're traveling, have a great weekend. If you're traveling, please be safe. So talk to you soon.
Great.